I live in a neighborhood home with my older sister. We rent the place and split the bills. This was last October, as the weather was just starting to get colder. My sister had plans to meet up with some friends in Florida, so she would be gone for almost a whole week. She invited me, but I couldn't take the time off work. Anyway, she left on Monday morning, which was the day I didn't work. I cleaned up the house and just enjoyed having some time alone. That same day, though, around 2, there was a knock at the door. I thought it was maybe a package my sister had ordered, so I answered it. It was an older man, like early 40s. He wasn't holding a package or anything, though. "Hi, how can I help you?" The man looked me in the eyes for an unsettling amount of time before answering. "Oh, I just wanted to see who lived here. Sorry, didn't mean to bother you." He smiled and nodded, then walked away. I thought that was strange and wasn't really sure what he meant by that, but I closed the door and continued my day. As far as I'm aware, nothing else happened for the rest of the evening. Dinner! There was a knock at the door again. I looked out the peephole before answering this time, and it was the same man from yesterday. He was easy to recognize because he wore the same exact clothes. I opened the door, though I was a bit more hesitant this time, only cracking it open. "Is everything okay?" He smiled and said of course, as if I was being silly for asking that. He then said he was just checking in on me. The way he said it was like he was expected or something. "Oh, are you a neighbor of mine?" "I didn't know," I said, assuming he must be one of those older, nosy neighbors. It still would be strange for him to check in on me, but it would explain it. "Oh no, I wish." "Just walking around," he said. He was really starting to creep me out now, so I said I was fine and closed the door. I waited for him to leave my porch, then went back to cooking. I texted my sister that night, asking if she'd ever encountered that man, but she said no. I was paranoid the rest of the night. I felt safe inside my home. All the doors were locked and everything, but I also felt like I was being stalked and watched. What could that man possibly want that wasn't something creepy? The night passed again with no more signs of him, and same with the following day. He didn't knock on the door, and I had hoped it might actually be nothing to worry about. The day after, I had off work, and every so often I'd peek out the windows just to be cautious, but I never saw anything. Around 8, I was watching TV when I heard something scrape against the outside of the house. It sounded like a stick scratching along the siding. I quickly got up and opened the blinds, seeing the bush right under the window shaking, and faintly I could hear footsteps running away. I couldn't see anything else in the dark, though. I felt like I was going to throw up. Surely it was the same man. But how long was he there? Was he sitting in the bushes trying to watch me through the window? I was so out of it I didn't know what to do and ended up calling my sister. Luckily for me, she picked up. I tried to explain to her what was going on, but I think I was talking too fast for her to understand. And midway through the conversation, there was a knock at the door. I didn't answer, but the man started calling out and knocking louder. He asked me to let him in and tried to guilt-trip me by saying he was injured. Then he made excuses for being outside my home and started apologizing for everything. He continued to bang on the door. It was creepy and disturbing how desperate he was for me to open the door. Clearly something was wrong with him. My sister told me to call 911 immediately, so I hung up and did as she said. The man stayed at the door for a whole 5 minutes, still trying to convince me to let him in before he finally left. What the man actually wanted is unknown, and how long he was stalking me for is also unknown. He could have somehow figured out my sister was gone for the week. It just seems like too big of a coincidence. Whatever the case, I haven't seen him at all since then. Hopefully it's... Story 2 by Ryan E. Over. It was just 4:02 a.m. And I had gotten an Uber back to my place after partying all night for New Year's. I don't think I was plastered or anything, but I definitely was well beyond tipsy, and I had a raging headache when I got dropped off. I slowly made my way up to the front door and fumbled around with my keys for way too long before making it inside. I tossed everything on the floor and took an ibuprofen, then fell over on the couch. I was exhausted and tired, but the headache was keeping me from sleeping, so I kind of just laid there with my eyes closed for a while. I honestly have no idea how long. Randomly, though, the doorbell rang. It rang several times, and I never got up to answer the door or even see who it was. At the moment, I didn't even care or think about it. I just wanted to lay there and try to sleep and not be bothered. Obviously, with it being the middle of the night, someone ringing my doorbell repeatedly should be pretty concerning, but like I said, I had a bit too much to Surprisingly, not too long after they stopped ringing the doorbell, I actually managed to pass out on the couch. I couldn't say how long I was asleep for, but when I woke up I was very groggy and felt weak, still with a pounding headache. The whole house was dark. I stood up and tried to... I made my way to the kitchen to get a glass of water when I noticed a streak of light on the wall in the hallway. Even in my not-so-sober state, it was unmistakable what it was. The light was coming from the front door being partially open and moonlight spilling into the house. Was I really so drunk that I didn't close the door? There was no way. Before I could even walk into the hallway and look at the door, footsteps moved around. Upstairs, I froze. Then I hurried back to the couch and ducked behind it. There were two sets of footsteps walking right above me. I thought about making a run for it, but my hesitation ruined my chances as the footsteps began making their way down the stairs. There was a pause, then the sound of the front door shutting, and the streak of light disappeared. "All right, let's get on with it," a man spoke. I was completely sobered up now and realized they probably had just gotten inside moments before I woke up and immediately checked the bedrooms upstairs. Not seeing anyone, they assumed the place was empty. My chest felt like it was burning from how fast my heart was racing. The men moved around in the room on the other side of the house. They began chatting like everyday regular talk about life. I don't know, but something about it was so disturbing and terrifying. I mean, if they were so comfortable breaking into my home and having casual conversations while doing so, then what the hell were they going to do if they found me? I could hear them taking things, robbing all the rooms in the house before the footsteps made their way into the living room. The way I had it set up, the couch was diagonal in the corner, so I was kind of closed off behind it. But the couch was also short, so if they got close to it, they would easily be able to see me. I just listened as they walked around, moving things and opening every drawer and box they saw. Then one of the men started walking closer to the couch. I hoped and waited for their footsteps to stop or change directions, but they kept coming closer and closer until I saw their heads show above me. They were looking down at the cushions, though, and I guess they didn't see me in the side of their vision. Then they moved on to the next room. I sat there motionless for almost 30 minutes, listening to them rummage through the entire house before they finally left. I didn't hear them say anything about coming back, but I grabbed my phone and ducked back behind the couch as I called the cops. The situation is mostly exactly what it seemed like. The men came in and robbed the valuables from my home. I had forgotten to lock the front door, but there's some evidence that it wouldn't have mattered. A neighbor said they saw two men watching my house rather suspiciously over the course of the past few days.